Hello everyone, Lewis from Scrubwood Studios here with another unboxing video. Been a bit since I've done one of these. Before we get into today's review, I'm just going to quickly address the elephant in the room, that being the different setup. Completely different part of the house I'm recording this in. As you can see, just at the top we've got a nice view over Lake Labyrinthodont, also known as my garden pond. And the lighting's much better, and I just think this is just much better. Also, the room where I used to record the reviews is it's like in the middle of the house, so people walk through a lot. This is a bit more secluded. So let me know what you think of the new setup and if you prefer this to the old location. So, on with the review. This figure, I mean, you already know what it is because you'll have seen the thumbnail and the title, but it's an interesting one because it's one that is sadly no longer in production. And this isn't one I needed for Prehistoric Valley. This is just one where I saw it, I kind of liked it, and I thought I should get this now before it gets really expensive and hard to find. It was already decently pricey, not extortionate or anything, but you know, I did pay a bit for it. Let's unbox this thing. Now, this is a figure from a company that I've never bought from before, that assuming it's not a bootleg, and I'm really hoping this isn't a bootleg and this is the actual figure. I got it off Amazon in case you're wondering. But it's from Vitae. Now, Vitae, I don't know much about them, but I do know they're a company that sort of popped up a few years ago, had a pretty good run with some pretty nice stuff, and then they went bust. And I don't know why. If someone who does know cares to tell me, that would be awesome. But I decided to grab one of their figures now before they become like really expensive and hard to find. And that was, get this box out of the way, and let's unwrap it. There's a lot of bubble wrap used on this thing. It doesn't come in its like display box, which does concern me a bit, because I'm pretty sure that originally they did, but maybe this person like got it and then resold it. I'm not entirely sure. But there you go, it's wrapped up in bubble wrap. And there's another layer of this finer bubble wrap. See if I can find a place to pull off the tape. I might have to go get scissors. But it doesn't look like it. Yeah, no display box, but here we have the Vitae Chilantaisaurus. Let me get this out of the bag and we'll jump to a closer look. So now that I've got the bag open, one thing I will point out, first of all, I'm really impressed by the colours on this thing. But let's see, does it stand up? No, it has a bit of trouble. And that's because it has one of these plastic trays that so many of these models do have. But mine wasn't on it when it came. And I think because of that, the feet have warped in transit. So I'm going to have to fix that in some way, which is a shame because I think if that foot was, see that foot there is bent this way. I think if it wasn't, it would probably be standing a lot better. Oh, well, it works like that, but that's because the tag was putting it up. Let me get this tag off real quick just so we can see if there's anything interesting on it. Okay, there was nothing interesting in the tag, by the way. No, like, facts about the animal, whatever. It was just the usual blah, blah. So, let's jump to a closer look at the model. So, start here at the head. So, this is Chilantaisaurus, in case you didn't know, is basically known from leg and arm bones and maybe some vertebrae. So, this reconstruction is quite speculative. It has been reconstructed here quite clearly as a Neovenatorid, though some have suggested it could be a large Megaraptoran or something else. We don't really know, but a Neovenatorid Carcharodontosaur is a decent guess. If we start up maybe here at the head, see if I can get it to Looks a bit better by doing that. Come on. Camera's being stupid. But yeah, completely black eyes. The colour scheme on this is very vibrant. It reminds me a lot of the Safari Limited Spinosaurus, and I'll bring that in when we get to comparisons. I will say this thing is very small. Like, considering that Chilantaisaurus was a pretty big theropod, based on the remains that we have, like there have been estimates up to like 11 meters and so on. This is in a very small scale, and it like for the price I paid for it, this doesn't seem worth it. But again, this has been out of production for a bit now, so that's probably why. So I won't criticize it too much for that. Very nicely sculpted teeth, all individually done by the looks of it. Despite, by the way, the camera does not do this thing justice for how vibrant the blue is on it. It looks absolutely wonderful in hand. Moving down, we've got that classic, about the right length for a neovenated neck. Now, the claws on these first two fingers have been enlarged, and I think that's based on the idea that Megaraptorans were related to neovenators, which is what this has been reconstructed as. So it's possible they've tried to reconstruct it as a neovenator on its way to becoming a Megaraptoran. Or like a stem Megaraptoran, maybe. So that's interesting. Obviously, there have also been other theories about the Megaraptorans suggesting they were Tyrannosauroids. Or just Suilosaurs? Or whatever, that group of an unknown position. But yeah, these are nice, powerful looking forearms with nice big claws. The claws are relatively sharp, but I don't think you're going to cut yourself on them. Underneath, we've got all of the legal blah blah. And we've got, we've got that. Do we have a cloaca here? No, we don't, unfortunately. I kind of thought that was for a sec, but no, that's just a stamp. Or I think that's actually where the mold might have plugged in. Turning it back over, moving down, we've got nicely sculpted back legs. Very nice. Ridges. There's some sort of larger scales or possibly osteoderms mixed in. This thing is quite smooth, I will say that, but then given the scale it's been made at, it's not that surprising. And then moving down, we've got a nice tail. It is a bit curved at the end, maybe a bit too curved, but not drastically. So overall, I'd say immediately, let's have a look inside the mouth. What detail have we got inside there? That's actually not bad. Yeah, it's not perfectly sculpted, but it's pretty decent. And the colours on this thing are just amazing. Although, I've just noticed, if you look at this side, and then if you look at this side, where's this black bit come from? This dark streak, like highlighting the blue around the eye. That's not there on the other side, so some negative points for that. I wonder if that's an error, or if that was if has that accidentally been added, or was that meant to be on this side as well? I will say, again, this thing is quite small for Chilantaisaurus, but because it's been reconstructed as a neovenatorid, this would make a pretty good neovenator, better than either of the collector ones, I would say. So I think if I ever do feature this in Prehistoric Valley, that might well be what this ends up being. Because it's a bit small for Chilantaisaurus, but for neovenator, this actually wouldn't be a half bad size. Speaking of which, let's get into some size comparisons. So starting out our size comparisons, as I mentioned, this thing would make a pretty good neovenator. So here it is next to my previous definitive neovenator, because it was the only one I had, which is the little collector scenting prey one, which, I mean, this is actually, I think, a kind of an underrated little figure. A lot of people don't like it. I think it's all right, but this just blows it out of the way. Although I will say, size-wise, this is, I mean, it is technically longer than the collector neovenator. And I think it is probably a bit bulkier, but not by much. This is a very small figure. I was not expecting it to be this small. And if we do pretend for a second it is neovenator, is a Baryonyx, the Carnegie one, and actually, if we think of this as Neovinator instead of Chilantaisaurus, it actually does scale pretty well with the Baryonyx. By the way, I put it back on the tray so it can stand up. I'm going to have to fix those feet. Moving on with, well, actually, I'll keep the Baryonyx. Moving on with some more Carcharodontosaurids. Here's the collector hunting Mahusaurus. Now, if we do think of this thing as Chilantaisaurus, then these two actually do scale decently well, like an 11-meter animal next to a 12+ meter animal. So yeah, these two actually would scale quite well, and he's falling over. And then two more size comparisons. One is the creature that I mentioned, or the figure that I mentioned at the start with a very similar colour scheme, the Safari Limited Spinosaurus. And I have to say, I think the Vitae Chilantaisaurus does do this colour scheme a tiny bit better. It's way more vibrant, but very, very similar. These two also don't scale too badly. For the record, let me just quickly grab, I'm going to do some measurements real quick and figure out what scale this thing is in. Okay, just did some quick measurements and calculations. What I figured out is this thing is in roughly, and I only did rough calculations, this thing is in roughly about 1:60 scale. And if it was in 1:35, it would be about a 6.5 meter individual. So yeah, it would be maybe a juvenile Chilantaisaurus. And to show how small it is, just for one final size comparison, let's bring in the Collector Deluxe 1:20 scale Koolasuchus, just because I always use this for size comparisons. So yeah, there it is with all our comparisons. Without further ado, let's get on to maybe some outside photos, and then let's end this video.